Yep. All right, let's do this, sir.
Let me start recording now.
All right. And I got my screen record. Sneed right there. Got you, sir. The
Hey,
background.
it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by my former colleague, Andrew Jones, was a journalist at the Young Turks, independent journalist doing a whole lot of different
Yep.
reporting now.
Yep.
You and I have fun text messages, so we just figured to
Yes, we did.
bring it live to the screen. I actually think we agree on more than we disagree on, but let's just do the disagree because it's more fun.
All right, let's get it
So,
going, sir.
Um, you know, I've had it both ways. I've lost subscribers for being critical of Bernie, and now I'm losing subscribers for not being critical enough. My viewpoint is I don't think Bernie is beyond criticism, nor is AOC or any of the other
Or
progressives.
anybody.
Right. But I also think it's a little crazy to call him a sellout and all these things. You seem to think there's kind of a method to Bernie's, I guess, restraint that we're not seeing. So I wanted to ask you what inside info do you have that I don't know?
Well, it's Jordan. It's just the inside info of common sense and the reality of the situations. Now, look, my main thing is this. Now, you know me, and I'm just like you in terms of viewing centrists or corporate Democrats or corporate media or all of them in the middle. We all know that they're going to always be really corrupt people that's not going to necessarily represent the interests primarily of working class people. It's always going to be first rich people, whether they're a big company or just rich, a-holes overall. So we already know that. What the thing about it is that with this primary, unlike 4 years ago, there was no excuse for Bernie Sanders not to win. All right, like 4 years ago, you have okay, people don't barely know him. Hillary's the inevitable candidate. All this other stuff, like older black voters, the black voters in general, or Hispanic voters, don't know him because he hasn't been around in terms of that, in terms of media coverage. So, and yet he still came practically damn close from being an 8% candidate to getting practically 44% of the vote. Well, 44% of the vote that we think that he got, and then, of the purging anything. But so, this primary, you saw clearly that all the signs were there that he should have really wrapped up the nomination with South Carolina, and even with Biden getting the win in South Carolina, he should have really wrapped it up on Super Tuesday. So, there was just so many circumstances, whether with the Iowa debacle or what happened in between with South Carolina and then that Super Tuesday night in terms of Obama influencing the primary, because he clearly did. He clearly influenced the primary that he said he was going to stay out of, that it was something where Bernie Sanders, and now with this pandemic out of nowhere, it was something where I definitely even understood when he dropped out. And it's something where, having some friends on the campaign too, like you, even though the campaign, we can question some things overall, but it's something where, despite the weirdness of Jeff Weaver and people getting at Pramila Jayapal for urging him out while Nina Turner and Rashida Tlaib was like, no, you stay in. It was just something where it was like, you know what? Bernie's like, look, if I couldn't get what happened in Michigan, and then with them forcing the election in Wisconsin, despite whining about Republicans trying to force it, it's something where he says, you know what? I understand that there was some funny business that went on, but we have the leverage in the party, considering that the exit polls on the issues dominated all public issues, not only Medicare for all, but free college, no debt from college, overall all public policy issues throughout every exit poll in the primary, with any private issues asked all throughout the primary. So he probably figures and probably says that, you know what, we're really more on the verge of taking over the party more than what it was 4 years ago, where centrists could still keep us at bay. And that comes along with this whole coalition in terms of the whole Biden, Sanders thing, where, look, we obviously know it's practically pandering from Biden and the centrists doing that. They're practically pandering with it. But to me, it's that last salvo from the quote unquote the left to show, or the rational left, to show the centrists that we're giving you a final chance to understand that the issues favor us here. And I think for sure the leverage that, and why I'm fully all the way on this, is that I do believe that there's going to be a 2024 presidential primary. because Bernie, despite how the campaign didn't want to really acknowledge it during the primary, because they didn't want the Obama voters to get angry at him and say, oh, he won the primary Obama, he won the primary, the first black president, da-da-da-da. The thing about it is that he was still well in his rights to do that because, of course, we know Obama was putting, Social Security and other benefits on the table during the whole sequester, in 2010 and stuff, And it's something where, yes, he was dealing with Republicans. He was trying to see if Republicans were going to take that deal, which they didn't because Mitch McConnell is just a racist, weird-ass person. And, that's why Obama did it. But still, Obama still put it on the table with the whole sequestration and the whole, we're going to make these whole cuts or whatnot of CPI or change CPI and all this nonsense. So it's just something where this is like the last straw for centrists to understand that they need to really just say the issues favor us now. And that's why it's something where, and by the way, the primary is actually still technically going on, despite him suspending the campaign. In fact, it was smart for him to do that because he still kept his name on the ballot. It would be one thing if he completely then said, take my name off the ballot. But it was so smart that it clearly has our New York Democratic Party so concerned that they went to court first. They canceled the primary. They canceled the presidential primary here, despite the state and congressional races happening on the same day still. So they couldn't use the coronavirus as an excuse, all right? So that's how I got thrown out by the court last week, where the court said, okay, you know what, this doesn't make any sense because the other primaries are going, so voting is still happening that day, so there's no excuse for you to cancel that primary, all right? Now you got Jay Jacobs and Andrew Cuomo definitely told him, like, we need to appeal this. They're trying to appeal to stop the New York primary from happening because the fact of the matter is that Joe Biden, regardless of how he's gotten this whole lead out of nowhere, he hasn't clinched plurality yet. He hasn't clinched the guarantee of winning the most majority of the delegates. And it's something where you see right there with that whole perspective, you see how concerned they are that even if Bernie doesn't catch Biden in the delegates because it's going to be tough with the pandemic and how this whole damn thing is going to go, it's something where they're still concerned about how many delegates he gets. And if it's embarrassing for Biden if Bernie wins the Bernifornia, my nickname for California, and wins New York, the two, big states, or two big blue states, because Texas obviously is not a blue state. If he wins those states and wins maybe New Jersey or whatnot, it'll be practically embarrassing for Biden to come into the nomination not winning the three most populous states or whatnot, and really basically winning states that were red states that carried him over.
I want to focus on the campaign first because I pretty much disagree with 9 out of 10 things you just said.
Okay. Let's hear it, sir. Let's hear it.
And you said a lot of different things. So
all right.
First of all, Bernie basically decided to give up before he endorsed Joe Biden. I think that's what you're kind of missing. That debate,
How?
He had several debates, and I love Bernie. I'm not calling him a seller or anything like this, but the reality is the reality. There were several debates, like in 2016 with Hillary Clinton, he chose not to go for the jugular. Now, we could debate why that is. It's just not in him. It's, not how we do things, whatever. But I agree with the need for organizing and door knocking. But really, one of the biggest opportunities you have as a candidate is nationally televised debates, particularly among the demographic that Bernie needed to reach most, which is older voters, because they watched those debates, and there were 12 of them. Now,
a lot.
In American history, as you know, the American people, majority of them are not political diehards. They are visual creatures. When Reagan said to, Mondale, I won't hit you for your inexperience. That was like the closest thing to a viral moment back in the 80s.
Yes, it was.
That was a moment that, honestly, many people think won him election. When Richard Nixon was schwitzing on national television against JFK and looked like, what a mess. I mean, we know that they kind of stole the election for JFK anyway, the mob, but that's a different story. That didn't look good. So if Bernie Sanders, I hate to say anything good about Trump, But the one thing Trump did very well in 2016, obviously he didn't mean any of the underlying things he was promising, but he called names, puppet. He named names.
Yes, he did.
He didn't say my friend Ted Cruz over here, this, that, and the other thing. And people respond to that because they like, in this moment with such economic pain, they like someone who just is above the BS and will call out everybody else.
True.
And I think, particularly in that one-on-one debate, in the
CNN debate, yep.
With no audience, you could tell like Bernie was hitting up against that wall, whether it's not in him to do it or he made some agreement with the DNC where, remember he said to Joe Biden, wait, you're saying you didn't do that?
Yes, without calling him like a direct liar,
Right. What you should have done is simply say, I'm sorry, Vice President Biden, but you're lying to the American people. You did write the bankruptcy bill, and here's how it devastated the people that will be voting in the next primary. Another thing, and I do not want to white explain. I don't want to white explain. I'm obviously not black, but to me, I don't know any political campaign. Including progressives, that wouldn't have run ads in South Carolina showing Joe Biden lying about being arrested on his way to meet Nelson Mandela, lying about being on the front lines of civil rights sit-ins when he never was in one of them, lying in front of black churches, in front of black people.
Yes, he did.
Pound around with Strom Thurmond in the 1970s.
Defending busing after Kamala hit him out on that.
I'm not saying Bernie would have won South Carolina, but I don't think he loses by 30 points because you could tell me if I'm wrong. I've interviewed older black voters. They didn't know about any of this stuff because the media didn't report it. So Bernie, it was winnable. He was on the verge of winning going into South Carolina.
Yes, he was.
He could have won if he lost South Carolina by 10 to 15 rather than 30, because I don't think if he would have lost by 10 to 15, I don't think you see that type of consolidation / dropout, no matter who Obama calls. It was the 30-point overwhelming blowout that allowed Obama to enforce his will. But the bottom line is, forgetting point by point, I don't think Bernie should have dropped out when he dropped out. I don't have a problem with him endorsing Biden. He said he was going to endorse the Democratic nominee. He's just following through. But if you're doing these things, you have to actually extract real, tangible things. Now, in fairness, maybe there is something we don't know about, but I doubt it.
Well, this is
what has Bernie? What has Bernie extracted, Andrew? Biden lowering the age of Medicare to 60? Well, thank you. That will help. That will help me 30 years after I die from coronavirus because I'm 33 and I'm not going to die. But you get the point. It's not helping the majority of the people. Secondly, some half-baked, means-tested plan for college affordability, which we know he's not going to fight for.
BS. Yes, it is. Right. Very much BS.
And we've gotten some task force, which, like Sarah Palin's bridge to nowhere, I can tell you where those task forces are going.
Just like 4 years ago.
To me, unless Joe Biden is selecting Nina Turner, and I think there's a better chance of me outdueling Tom Brady in a football game.
I won't underestimate you on that because Brady's a system quarterback. I'm just keeping it real. Just like Jordan is the best of all time in terms of Michael Jordan people. So we could have a separate discussion on that. And even Emma Vigeland would probably RTS or whatnot, and we just don't associate with her anymore. But anyway.
Bottom line is, Bernie has gotten jack shit for doing live hostage videos with Biden, live streams, where it looks like Bernie is there against his will, where they have task forces which mean nothing. And the truth is, as you know, because you've reported on Money in Politics, Bernie's not actually, AOC, Bernie, they're not negotiating with Biden. Biden doesn't make the decisions.
No, he does not.
His donors make the decisions.
Yep.
So Biden could say whatever the hell he wants now. He could say, we need to forgive rent, not delay it. You think his real estate developers are down with that? You think?
No, they're not. No, they're not.
That's my rant. What do you say to that?
Well, sir, first, I'll say this. First, I'm glad that you are fully recovered from coronavirus. For people that don't know, Jordan had a case of coronavirus or whatnot, and it's really that real. For people that's still kind of questioning that, it really is that real. Kim Iverson viewers, for example, still questioning that.
Don't even get me started on that.
Oh, there's a lot for me to explain. We're in solidarity about that, brother, right? But Jordan. You're not seeing the full picture, sir. You're getting the loco. I have to give you the Stephen A. Smith to your Skip Bayless here, sir. All right. When the first hit was good because Max Kellerman's a good guy. But all right, Jordan. I'm not Jordan. You can't see me. God. You can't see me, Jordan. Jordan, you can't see me or whatnot. Because Jordan, you're not seeing the whole picture or whatnot. Okay. All right. So let's go through all this or whatnot. First, in terms of the factors of the one-on-one debate, and tied into South Carolina. Okay. Joe Biden in
well, in fairness, that wasn't a one-on-one. They didn't have a one-on-one.
It was 104. 104. It was one. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about that. All right. The first 3 states of the primary election. All right, and going to the last 2 times that Joe Biden ran for president, Obama's VP. Okay, Joe Biden had not won a single state in his 3 times or 2 times in 3 states of running president. Overall, by the way, Dunkin' Donuts, send this man a check for that promotion right there, right? So he's not won a single state, all right? He went from last year being the favorite, the front runner, and then it was a mix of then Bernie the co-favorite, then is Elizabeth Warren the co-favorite, then Bernie has a heart attack, so is Warren going to get Bernie's lane, then Kamala Harris, is she going to emerge, da-da-da-da, then it's like, and then, Bernie reemerges again, but Biden's still the favorite in December, but then people see that this man is just not good at all. Like, he's not even smarter than Hillary, even though him and Hillary are the same centrist overall. He just is not smarter and he has like a penis. So like that's the only difference. But again, Hillary is way more popular overall despite because of her being a celebrity for so many years. And Biden got his whole career revived because Obama needed someone to make the banks comfortable with in '08 to choose as his running mate. So you have the first 3 elections, as we saw in Iowa. The 2 things about Iowa that we can guarantee is that Bernie Sanders definitely had the most support in the state, and that Joe Biden, there's more of us here than who supported Joe Biden in Iowa, all right? That's how we saw, as you saw in person, you saw directly when you were out there, that there was no Joe Biden supporters or whatnot. Well, you got to take out the glasses and be like, that's what it was, all right? So now you have that. Then you have in New Hampshire, after they tried to prop up Buttigieg and then Klobuchar the whole week or whatnot, only for Bernie to still win, you have a still split field, a mostly majority field, but Biden finishes 5th in New Hampshire, right? Either 4th or 5th. Either way, he got his clock clean again and got his ass whooped where he left New Hampshire and went to South Carolina right away instead of not even go to Nevada because they were so scared. They were so scared about what it was because they knew in Nevada they were hoping that they could use the culinary bosses to trip up Bernie and do the Medicare for all BS or whatnot and try to be like, oh, it's actually divisive on the workers and try to do the same BS they did 4 years ago that American Ferrera and I forgot the lovely Dolores Herta that try to frame Bernie supporters being racist and Susan Sarandon narrow that one out there along with Harry Reid helping. Shout out to Fast Cure. But it's something where you have the thing that they try to do in Nevada in a different way, only for it to not get worked at all. And it wasn't because of Chuck Roca or other great Latino supporters that are or Latinx supporters part of Bernie's campaign. It was because Bernie is just consistently out there and his message resonates overall in terms of poor Latino voters that are just looking for someone to represent them. And that's how the Nevada burnout, or the Nevada burnout as I call out, happened. 30-point win. You got Claire McCaskill freaking out. And you had the networks. They made sure because the networks thought they could. The party tried to think they could get away with what they did in Iowa because that's a scandal right there. No matter what anyone tells me, the scandal was right there for everyone to see. But you have the party trying to do the same thing where they weren't releasing the results of the election initially. If you remember that, right? That you was waiting for it to be like, why is it taking so long to still release these results? But the networks, they were so pissed at what happened in Iowa or what the party was doing, that they made sure to put independent reporters at the precincts to do the counting and shit, to make sure that they weren't going to have a delay, like an all-night delay and then multiple days delayed mess like they did in Iowa. And they had to realize, wow, Bernie Sanders truly can win this nomination. Not only win this nomination, win it early. Win the nomination early, and that's why Chet Todd was asking about, if you have the plurality, or if you have the most delegates won, then are you gonna say you're gonna favor the nominee, whether it's you or anybody else? And that's why they asked him that at the debate. All right. So you have the Nevada burnout. We're all on a high in terms of everyone on the left. We're laughing at Claire McCaskill and James Carville freaking out all over the place. All right. Joe Biden, despite finishing second, he lost by 30 points, Jordan, and he still had less delegates than Buttigieg and even Klobuchar, I think, at that time. And the thing even Warren. So you have a guy who was basically fading. The whole headlines are like, this is Joe Biden's last chance or whatnot. And really, we thought Buttigieg was who they were going to pick. In fact, we thought that all the centrists wanted to do, because they realized that Bernie support is so real, and he's got younger black support. So he's basically got all the supporters that clearly older voters and older black voters know him now, unlike 4 years ago, right? Or know him more. So it's something where it's like, all right, he's got all the boxes checked off or whatnot. How can we do something where we have to do something where it's more than just denying him 1991 delegates, the majority, all right? Because we thought that all they were going to try to do was everyone's going to try to stay in the race as long as possible to decide to stop him from reaching that ceiling. You saw that ceiling that Chuck Todd and all centrist media was saying that, oh, Bernie's only getting 30% of the vote. He's only getting 30% of the vote. If the centrists all line up together, if they all combine together, oh, they will have more votes than him and all this dumb BS or whatnot. When people knew that it's a divided field with 5 viable candidates that are popular enough to get votes. Of course, he's gonna just not gonna have more than, he's not gonna even come close to having 50% of the vote. We all know that, but casual voters don't, because they just see the numbers and they say, wow, Bernie Sanders, he had this support against Hillary 4 years ago where he dominated New Hampshire, but now he just barely won New Hampshire. And it's like, yes, because there's more people in the damn race, and Hillary is unpopular. So you have all those factors or whatever. So you got South Carolina week, all right? And there was no need for Bernie to even think about Biden, because he was going to pass him inevitably, as what it should be, because Buttigieg was the person that they were trying to... And then Bloomberg was still a factor where he was about to emerge in the race, right? So you still had his ass in there, despite not being on the ballots in Nevada and South Carolina, being in the debates, on those debates. And this is how crazy Tom Perez and all of them did this shit, because there was no reason for Bloomberg to even be in those damn debates if he was not even on the ballot in those damn states, all right? So there was no need for Bernie to focus on Biden at all. Biden is a fading candidate at all. He's fading, even in South Carolina. Like, South Carolina's going to pass Super Tuesdays right after. Bernie's leading in Texas. He's leading in all the states. He's even almost beating Warren in Massachusetts, almost beating Klobuchar in Minnesota. There was no need to focus on Biden at all.
But I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think where we disagree is... I don't think we're disagreeing on there's for everything. There's a macro issue and a micro issue, right? So I don't think we're disagreeing with the micro issue that, like, Bernie was on a roll heading into South Carolina and, like, he didn't need to go scorched earth on Biden. I do think he needed to bring up the civil rights lies, but let's table that for a second. What the main issue is for why Bernie was even in the position at that point for an 3-day Obama spark consolidation.
Centrist coalition calls.
Was because Bernie Sanders never took off the gloves. And if he would have taken off the gloves, let me explain why. For example, and I'm not Monday morning quarterbacking, I said it when it was going on. I was in Iowa. I said Bernie's campaign should not be just declaring victory with the popular vote and moving on to New Hampshire. Just like I said in 2016, they should be kicking, screaming, and filing lawsuits about the New York primary. But I was told we don't want to look like sore losers by his campaign back then. Let me finish. After this Iowa fraud, that's what it was. This was an inside job by Tom Perez. It wasn't an app malfunction.
Troy Price, the fall guy, that with the Associated Press still won't ever declare a winner. And now what you mentioned about the Des Moines Register, even though some people in the Buttigieg campaign, and my friend for sure, I called him out on stuff, and clearly there was something fishy when that poll did not come out. When that's a respectable poll.
If Bernie Sanders' campaign complained that one person polled wasn't given Bernie as an option, Des Moines Register would have leaked it to the media and not block their poll from getting it. But the bottom line is, people focus on Nevada and South Carolina. The Bernie Sanders campaign, if they would have right then and there said Pete Buttigieg is not the winner of the Iowa caucus, this is fraud. We want an independent investigation. The media cannot then give Pete Buttigieg hundreds of millions of dollars of free advertising. For seven. I went straight to New Hampshire.
Yep.
Buttigieg got a 10-point bump in New Hampshire.
Yes, he did.
Because Bernie's campaign basically sent up a press release and some social media, well, we won the popular vote, we're moving on, without pointing out and fighting, this is fraud. Look at the donors who were behind this app. These were former Hillary Clinton staffers. That's what his base would have wanted. And the media could not, even the corporate media, could not ignore that if Bernie's campaign is calling out fraud. So the reason that Bernie only won New Hampshire, even though it was 12 candidates he was facing, by 1 point, is because Buttigieg got a 10-point bump that week because he got hundreds of millions of dollars of free advertising as the Iowa caucus winner. So that's number one. This is what I'm talking about, the macro issue, and it's not Bernie's campaign's fault. A lot of people are criticizing his campaign. Sure, there's strategical errors in every campaign. But the bottom line is, if the candidate is the final decider on the major issues, because Bernie makes the final decisions, him and Jane, it doesn't matter what Fez Shakir tells him to do, or Nina Turner.
Or Jeff Weaver, definitely.
Or Jeff Weaver. So Bernie always wanted to be above the fray, didn't want to look like a sore loser. Let's just declare that we won the Iowa caucus, we had the popular votes. But if you would have pointed out the fraud, if you would have pointed out, literally, nobody's on Twitter are tweeting out that the delegate sheets don't match up. And they were right. I mean, the bottom line is, if you would have done that, Buttigieg does not get to 24% in New Hampshire. Because I can tell you, I interviewed voters before the New Hampshire primary in New Hampshire.
Who it was? Who the fuck was?
9 out of 10 of them said, I've been seeing a lot more about this Buttigieg guy since Iowa.
Yep.
So that's how manufacturing consent works and all that. Then, let me finish. Okay, so if he would have done that, I think he wins Iowa by New Hampshire by more. Then after New Hampshire, going into Nevada, I love their strategy in Nevada. They had organized since 2016 to galvanize Nevada. Then after that, because I think Bernie's campaign always saw Biden as their main threat. They saw, based on the sources I have, they saw Buttigieg as kind of a flash in the plan.
Biden was a favorite, last year. So
when you have, and I think you have similar, maybe not exactly the same sources, but they saw Biden as the top threat. When you have, after Nevada, when you have your perceived threat on the ropes, do you say, oh, let's just let him, TKO himself? Or do you punch him in the fucking face? So Bernie Sanders was on 60 Minutes. There was more people watching Bernie Sanders than probably ever. They get 10 to 15 million viewers, 60 Minutes to do the propaganda they do. I'm sorry for the progressives that are going to be mad at me for saying this. You dodge the Cuba answer so that you can't give the media that ammo for days, and you go after Biden. You say on 60 Minutes, listen, Joe Biden, I appreciate his service. This is a different time. And to voters that might be a little older, you speak directly to them because that's your weak spot, particularly African-American voters coming up in South Carolina. I'd like you to look at the record of Joe Biden, because the difference between Joe Biden and me, if I'm Bernie Sanders, I would have said this. I voted for the crime bill. I voted for it because there were provisions like
he explained it clearly why he voted for it.
It was one of the biggest devastating effects on the African-American community. There are black men in jail today in South Carolina that should be released.
For sure. Joe Biden, and everywhere in general.
And Joe Biden, to this day, can't say it was a mistake. I regret it, and I would overhaul it.
He's definitely evaluated himself on it. He says that I need to look at this in a way now, that type of stuff, without fully saying, I'm sorry, I was being systematically racist, I wasn't being courageous to crazy Republicans, and being down the middle of stuff. Yeah.
Because, Andrew, what's your bigger opportunity before South Carolina? How many doors you're going to knock on, or 10 to 15 million people watching you on 60 Minutes? So the bottom line is, we could phrase it however you want, take off the gloves, be more aggressive, He never actually waged a campaign against Joe Biden, and that's why he lost. Yes, the media played a major role, but I got news for you. If he would have done the things I'm saying, I knew he was never going to run an ad about the lies Biden told. But if he would have said on 60 Minutes, I also would ask African-American voters in the next state and other states to really look into Vice President Biden's record. Ask him a few questions, because he has told a lot of stories that don't match the facts. He is told about marching. I was arrested marching for civil rights. Can you find video of Joe Biden marching?
Jordan, you can even go back to when he was a pool lifeguard. Biden's always told.
So the bottom line is, I think you're being I love Bernie, but I think you're being a Bernie apologist. and
really, Joe?
I have not heard yet from you. You say there's extenuating things that we don't know. I haven't heard them, which would explain to me why Bernie endorsed him when he did. Got nothing for it. I haven't heard that from you.
Well, Jordan, let me tell you.
Wait a minute.
Yes, sir.
I just want to match your.
Yes, match me with the glasses, sir.
I know people say I look like Biden with this. It's not the intention.
You actually look like a good biker there, man. In fact, you know who you look like? You look like the Barstool guy, David Portnoy. You look like David Portnoy.
Barstool guys are shady. But although I do like, what's that show called?
What's up, Nate? What's up, Nate? What's up, Nate? How you doing?
He said what's up. So bottom line, I think that at the end of the day, Bernie was not going to win South Carolina. Older African Americans, they think the way they think. I'm not criticizing them. I understand why they're more conservative. They've been lied.
I can tell you, and that's not necessarily true, by the way. But I keep on going.
They've been lied to by the government for 400 years. They are always in survival mode. I get it. But he wouldn't lose by 30 points if he would have done some of the things I just outlined.
All right.
And if he wouldn't have lost South Carolina by 30 points, Obama could not have got all the ducks in a row. and there's another aspect I real quickly want to say. And this would have been risky for him to do, but I think he should have done it. And this goes into, some people say it's because, Bernie is just a mensch. I say it's because he actually doesn't like confrontation. When Elizabeth Warren leaks to the media that you are a secret sexist and told her a woman can't win and all this, and on the debate stage, what you say is very simple, because he went down 10 points among women after that too. What you say is very simple. Senator Warren is a great senator. I think she's done amazing things that we've worked on, but the fact is she has a history of inconsistencies with the truth. The media has covered some of those inconsistencies because the Native American thing never came up during the media. They never covered it. But the bottom line is, I respect her.
The Harvard professor stuff, for sure.
Has not been the most consistent with the truth.
At all.
Maybe she perceives something I said as inferring that, but the words, a woman could not win the presidency, never came out of my mouth. That's not true. Senator Warren, you know that's not true, and please stop making this up. When you fight, when you fight,
that's shots.
People respond to it. Yeah, there would have been a certain segment of feminists who say cancel Bernie, blah blah blah. But there would have been a lot of them who already were thinking that doesn't sound like something Bernie would say, and he's strongly denying it. And wait, she has lied about a lot of things. So the bottom line is, when you don't fight your opponents, when you let them lie about you, when you tend to crater. And he wouldn't do that, and that's why he lost, in addition to the media.
Sir, are you done with this Bernie Sanders, Ron Paul-esque filibuster? Are you done with this, sir? Are you done with this, sir? Because, sir, I got to put on my sunglasses again before you appropriate the movement and whatnot. Sir, I got to educate you, Jordan Chariton. Sir, buddy, I got to educate you on this and whatnot. You said that Bernie Sanders is not a confrontational person. Bernie Sanders. The corporation's on your flag in the back, on that amazing flag, because that is a very true flag. Whether Apple, whether McDonald's, Verizon, Amazon, Walmart, this man is their number one enemy.
No.
Their number one. Jordan.
Let me restate. Confrontational with Republicans. He's confrontational with corporate CEOs. He's confrontational-ish with the Democratic Party.
And let me tell you why he is.
He was not confrontational with Hillary Clinton. He said, I don't care about your damn emails, which was a big mistake. And it was not confrontational with Biden, Warren, or any of these people. And by the way, Andrew, you know this, and I know this. His campaign, because people criticize his campaign, but they don't understand, his campaign was basically trying to will the words out of him. All of his campaign, most of the highest
yes, it's true, people
were pleading with him to do the things I'm saying. So it's not like he never got the advice.
Well, Jordan, this is why I have to say it, whatnot. I hope our viewers of this whole stream, whenever it's up or whenever it airs, can understand a key point that they would probably agree is true, especially with this pandemic happening and whatnot. Jordan, we live in a very stupid country. We do a lot of stupid things in this country. We've always done stupid things in this country, right? So my thing is that Bernie Sanders knows that the Democratic Party, despite him being kind to not run as an independent, not only 24 years ago, but to not run as an independent twice. And this is where I get at with Jeremy Scahill, because Jeremy Scahill is a dumbass when I have to debate with him on this, and that's why he doesn't have this debate. My former colleague at The Intercept and former friend, but it's a whole nother matter with that.
I like Jeremy, but go ahead.
Well, I'll tell you my whole thing with that in the private discussions. So my thing is this. There's a reason why this man was smart enough to run as a Democrat and to run against the Centrist Party. Because he knows, as we still see 20 years from now, people blaming Ralph Nader for Al Gore giving up the whole election to the Cheney administration, basically stealing the election in the corrupt Supreme Court, thanks to John Roberts, stealing the election and stuff. They're still blaming Ralph Nader for that loss or whatnot, and how we're suffering from Republicans taking over it because the world's never been the same since Republicans have once again taken over the office from back then. 9/11, everything else, more tax cuts, more horror or whatnot, to the point where Nicole Wallace looks like she's actually the most popular anchor on television and whatnot, despite trying to put Sarah Palin in front of us as a vice president choice. So you have that whole element where Bernie Sanders knows that he's trying to understand that I will not be labeled as the Ralph Nader of the generation and split this whole vote and be clearly the reason, because they still try to make him to be the reason 4 years ago in terms of Hillary, desperate, crazy legion of people, and Hillary herself, that try to make him as the fault for her losing key swing states and not understanding that it's not the popular vote that wins, it's a corrupt electoral college that wins, So Bernie Sanders understood that it just doesn't make sense for me to try to be running as an independent and to try to really antagonize the Democratic Party or whatnot, which you wouldn't blame him, but he knew that was an effective thing to do. So this is where it comes to in terms of the whole Biden thing, right? Once again, Nevada debate comes. Bloomberg is getting the focus from the centrists, not even Buttigieg. Bloomberg is getting the focus from the centrists, like he could emerge as the guy or whatever, the anti-Bernie or whatnot, all right? Bloomberg is getting the attention all the way. Clearly, all of us, whether it was the audio that Benjamin Dixon did not release, by the way, that audio was on there 5 years ago, and he just repackaged it and again, like it was zone, but whatever. Bloomberg was the focus. He was the focus from everybody. Bernie left, Warren left, like even Biden left. Like, Bloomberg was the focus or whatnot, all right? He was being viewed as a threat. And again, Biden was doing terribly. He was showing that, again, he didn't win no state. It was like the Obama VP thing didn't help him. He was showing again why he's Joe Biden, a guy that wasn't able to win any state because he's a panderer and someone that sometimes wants to do Republican things when it suits him at any single time or whatnot. And by the way, I don't think that necessarily would be the case with him right now, but that's just a whole nother factor, right? So you have all those elements with that where there was no need, again, to even think about Biden. Now let me go to the 60 Minutes interview. Because a thing that was bigger that whole week was first the Nevada debate, which got the most ratings and made the DNC really scared because of how Warren and Bernie embarrassed Bloomberg. Then you had the South Carolina debate, all right? With a 60 Minutes interview, they tried to talk about the whole Castro comments. And again, Bernie, he drew the fine line. He drew the rational line where if you're a person with a brain, you would understand that Bernie is saying the most rational thing you could say about Cuba. He's clearly saying that Castro was, in fact, a dictator, but he's also saying that Cuba was not democratic socialist. It was a socialist, but the things that they did made sense in terms of education and healthcare, right?
But you just contradicted yourself.
How did I contradict myself? How?
You correctly said the majority of Americans are idiots.
Mm-hmm.
So Bernie was obviously right on the merits.
Mm-hmm.
But are you going to rewire a bunch of idiots' minds in 5 days before the South Carolina primary?
Well,
what Bernie should have said is,
mm-hmm.
I'm not here to talk about Fidel Castro and Cuba. If you want to talk about that, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Fidel Castro was a dictator, blah, 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 blah.
But Jordan,
I want to focus. I want to focus on 500,000 people losing, going bankrupt because of medical. I want to focus on ABC, his talking point.
Which he was trying to do.
What you do is you just dodge it and you make the media look stupid and small.
Look, Jordan.
In that sometimes progressives, the way to seize power sometimes is you don't need to be pure on every single thing. Get power, and then we could rewire the brains on Castro and Cuba. So go ahead.
Jordan, you see how they went after, you saw how Rachel Maddow, along with Elizabeth Warren, because they couldn't paint Bernie as being irrational and angry, despite how Chris Cillizza and all these people were saying, he yells a lot. You see how they were always trying to paint him as angry and always irrational, right? Centrist media were already doing that and being effective at doing that because that's what they do. If you regurgitate it constantly, no matter how we've negated their impact on online media, they are still at the center, at the forefront, because older voters and mostly are still watching them as their primary source of information, all right? So you already had them trying to frame him as this apoplectic, out of control, irate white man who's just talking about the same Medicare for all. He's still talking about, going against the rich and whatnot. He's still talking about going against Wall Street. He's still talking about, Walmart. He's still talking about Amazon. He's saying the same things. Oh, he's just angry. He's just someone that doesn't seem like he's worth a good time or whatnot. They already painted from the last election that he's a negative person, that he's a person that just is not applicable, right? So anything that he does or whatnot, they already are being adamant of painting him as negative because that was the talking points that Andy Lack, Jeff Zucker have long done on him because he's always been a corporate threat or whatnot, a real corporate threat. So then you have everything with Cuba and everything, and also, in terms of going after any Democrats where they're going to always paint him as that. So they knew that they couldn't do that and how he answered the Warren thing perfectly because she wanted to trip him up, obviously, thanks to Hillary people that influenced her. Wanted to trip him up in terms of saying, hey, you remember that talk that you had with Bernie that was covered by the New York Times, by the way, by Jonathan Martin, where there was no talk about Bernie telling her that she couldn't win as a woman this time, because it wasn't at all. Let's do this, Elizabeth.
But how could it have been perfect
Jordan,
if he went down 10 points?
Jordan, let me explain.
10 points among women.
Sir Chariton, I got you, brother. I got you. I got you with this. Trust me on this, all right? So they knew Elizabeth Warren in the Me Too era that no matter any accusation or whatnot, whether you accuse any Democratic male or any male or whatnot, that it will always be front and center in terms of like, oh, she has a really credible case. This looks like it happened. And since we weren't there, and since no one was there except her and Bernie and whatnot, there's no way to outright refute it, to outright refute the whole thing. So we can always insinuate through MJ Lee, we'll leak it out to MJ Lee at CNN, and we'll say, oh, Bernie actually did say that he didn't think I could win, as a woman candidate, whatnot, and just float it out there and be like, oh, it is what it is, but I believe that I'm going to be the first woman president, Elizabeth Warren, her paraphrasing, before the debate, and to try to let that simmer. Bernie knew that if he said, all right, oh, she's lying, without clearly being able to show that she was lying, because she was lying, obviously. We know Bernie Sanders is 1988 on record, literally to children, to little girls, was saying you could be a female president just like these little boys can be male presidents. That was clearly on tape or whatnot, and the campaign thankfully found that and put that out to further show how ridiculous it was. But still, you had people, especially the loyal Warren Legion, they were saying, well, I still believe Warren. Bernie clearly said that, despite clearly he didn't, but yeah. You had people that were anti-Bernie, especially in the feminist lane, some of them in the feminist lane, despite Bernie being the most feminist candidate probably ever. No, not probably. definitely ever, based on his women's rights records, they were like, oh, this man is just trying to say what he is, and Warren, she's, you know what, she's speaking her truth. This is what happened or whatnot. He's just not understanding. So when the debate came, he played it as best as possible, where he was like, you know, like, I've never said that. I don't know if I said it, but I never said that. And she was so irate that he didn't take the bait, that you saw what happened at the end of the debate when she didn't shake his hand and everything, and how that filtered. And of course, what did that help? Did that facilitate Elizabeth Warren in January? No, it did not. It was to the point where it was definitely this year's version of her not endorsing in the Massachusetts primary in terms of pissing off the left, pissing off this Bernie voters, and started that whole chain of effect where then she wanted to undercut the supporters on Twitter. So that's what they tried to do. They realized that they couldn't attack him because he's being as calm as possible while still being his authentic self. So they were like, you know what? We have to go after his supporters, and we have to try to annoy him to try to reject his supporters or whatnot again, even though no supporter is going to leave him just because he just says, well, I hope, you know, if it's someone from my campaign or whatever saying these things, and we disavow these statements or whatnot. So Bernie knew that he was going to be in a no-win position. And let me get to the Cuba thing. Because if he just said to whoever interviewed him, I forgot, Anderson Cooper interviewed him for that, I think, yeah. If he just said, we're not going to talk about Cuba, well, guess what, Jordan? He's already been on record talking about Cuba 4 years ago, 8 years ago, so many years long ago. What they were going to do is say, oh, he's avoiding a question about Cuba. Oh, he's once again showing that he won't, you know, disavow his comments from before in Florida, and he's just the same, you know, socialist, even though he's a democratic socialist, and we're just going to say the same things. So he was going to be in a no-win situation whatsoever if he did that, and he played it off the best as possible to rational voters who are able to see the whole picture. Not that anyone is irrational watching TV, but of course, if they watch corporate media, centrist media, they're going to be like, well, you know, this is what's presented in front of me, whether you're black, older white, older Hispanic, older whatever, older polka dot. What matters is that you have the information regurgitated all the time. You may think that is something leading to believing it to be true. So now we get to South Carolina week in terms of after that 60 Minutes interview, right? And the thing that was telling after, and I can dare, without any sources on this, no sources whatsoever, Jordan, all right? I definitely bet you Obama went and told Jim Clyburn, Jim, can you do Joe a favor? Can you do Joe a favor even though you've done deals with Bernie in terms of your 10, 20, 30 bill or whatnot, and you've definitely been critical of Biden running his campaign. I know you don't want farmer support to leave you, Jim, and you want to keep your power in the House or whatnot. You know what? It's best that we back Biden because no one knows Pete. Pete doesn't have any support, you know, beyond this white, rich, you know, voters or white privileged voters or whatnot. And Amy Klobuchar, no one really, you know, cares about her. And and then Bloomberg, of course, we don't like him because he's an a-hole. So I think it's best for you. Our only chance to stop Bernie, you know, at least for South Carolina, and then I'll see what I can do after South Carolina towards that Sunday before Super Tuesday. I'm going to tell you to try to endorse Biden, to give him a lot of free media that he needs, because Biden wasn't getting any donations. He wasn't getting any donations because he's fading, all right? So Jim Clyburn gives his fake endorsement to Biden, all right? So his fake endorsement to Biden's given, all right? So what happens is, or whatever, shut up phones, probably somebody CIA trying to track me down. But you have the fake endorsement to Biden. Then, as we all remember, the South Carolina debate. And we noticed with the South Carolina debate, it was unlike any other Democratic debate, including any other South Carolina debate that I've seen, you know, despite it being a red state, where you basically had the DNC fill up tickets with Tom Perez and his spokeswoman, Harnosa, were, you know, okay with the fact that tickets were going for $1,500 to $5,000, or I guess allocated as that, because they said it was allocated as that to try to cover their behinds. And you had in the whole debate, after the most watched debate in Nevada, Bernie and Elizabeth Warren roasting Bloomberg, all the attention still on Bloomberg. Bloomberg still perceived as a threat, even though he's fading clearly, but he's still perceived as a threat or whatnot for Super Tuesday. The win in Florida and to still be alive. You had the crowd boo boo a Democratic crowd, boo Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren for calling Mike Bloomberg, a corrupt billionaire and sexist billionaire too. Boo, boo him. And it was like they wanted to make sure, because that was going to have more viewers in the 60 Minutes debate, that they wanted to negate the major advantage that Bernie could have, because Bernie's very popular in debates. He's always getting claps. Despite them trying to take all the time away from him, as we always complain during these dem debates on Twitter or whatnot, that he's trying to take all these things away. They're trying to take all the advantages away from him and stuff. He's popular in debates, so what we're going to do, we're going to stuff a crowd who is a bunch of rich people that can't stand him and can't stand whenever Warren does this, even though they wouldn't mind Warren in the end or whatnot, because she's centrist appeases, unlike any other. And we'll be fine with this as long as we are just able to negate his advantage and try to keep Biden out the way. Where Biden, as long as you don't make a mistake, Joe, we'll say that, oh, Joe looks revived in this debate. It looked like Joe won the debate. Joe looked like he did a good thing, even though he didn't do a damn thing in the debate, all right? So you got that. You got that all the way, and that leads to South Carolina. Now, remember, Hillary waxed Bernie by 50 points in South Carolina, despite it just being those two, because O'Malley was long going out the race with his cliche centrist self. Now, Bernie did well, despite it being 28-24 going into the week, and it looked like he's going to pass Biden, and it looked like he's going to wrap up the nomination then. Because he, honestly, the first three states, as we all know, Jordan, regardless of if you win it by 1 vote, 2 votes, or whatever, if you got the most votes in all 3 of those states or whatnot, the nomination's already yours. The nomination's already yours. It just so happened to be this year that actually didn't happen or whatnot, all right? But anyway, South Carolina, all right? So Biden's lucky he got the Clyburn endorsement at the very least, or whatever, as proof where you could see a boost, where you could see a bump. But it was really the debate that really ensured that Bernie wasn't going to pass him along with the Clyburn endorsement, all right? But anyway, South Carolina is still a small red state, practically, despite all its power, where you're like, look, it can't affect Super Tuesday in such a short fashion of time because Bernie has a ground game in California, has a ground game in Texas. First he's favored in California, has a ground game in Texas to make him a slight favorite, has viability in Virginia, of course, obviously he's just name ID all over the place. So he's clearly the favorite almost in practically any state outside of the South. And in Virginia and North Carolina, he's still doing practically well, where even if he finished in second, Biden or whoever finished in front of him won't have any major advantage with delegates, and Bernie would still be clearly the favorite for the nomination. In fact, again, he would it'd be like the nomination should have been his right there and then, all right? And then, of course, we have the Obama coalition calls, because Obama made sure that South Carolina was too small to make a difference, so they need to make sure that Biden, again, struggling to get donations, needed all the free media help in the world. And that was free media on steroids, because that was during the week with Selma in terms of the Pettis Bridge wall. So you have Buttigieg drop out, because Buttigieg, remember, Buttigieg was complaining, he was whining, like the Buttigieg was whining. He was whining, saying that, oh, we need someone to coalesce around. If not, then, Bernie's still going to win this nomination. We need someone to coalesce around. And Obama certainly heard that and was like, Pete, you got to know your place, son, because you are certainly still young in this party, and you got a lot of potential. And we hope that you were going to be the gay Obama, where we could artificial a win for you in Iowa. We could fake a win in Iowa, just like how I got my resounding win in Iowa in 2008, and how that propelled me all throughout the rest of the primary against Hillary. We wish that was the case, but you're just not popular among minority voters. You just aren't. No one still knows you. So what we're gonna do for you is that if you endorse Biden tonight, if you take your airplane from going to Houston, where you was going, or Dallas, wherever he's going to in Texas, the campaign on Super Tuesday, we're gonna go. If you go ahead and endorse him at home, you get all your people in South Bend, you and your husband, and have this great speech or whatnot for Biden. We'll make sure that your popularity in the party is going to boost, where what we'll do is that we'll put you as Jimmy Kimmel's host on ABC for him and try to get your popularity up with younger voters. And that's what happened. Then Klobuchar, because she knew damn well she had no chance at the nomination, she basically was like, all right, you know what, Amy, we like you. Me and Joe, Joe and me are friends or whatnot. So we got you. We're going to make sure you're good. And, wink, wink, we're going to make you the presumptive favorite for VP if Joe is able to get this comeback, if we do it, if we manufacture it well. That's why Klobuchar went and spilled the beans, like the dummy that she sometimes is or whatnot, and said before Super Tuesday, oh, could be like the running. I'm excited to be part of the ticket. Oh, sorry, I mean, I'm excited for the possibilities a lot for it with the Biden, administration. So that's how she's always been the favorite or whatnot. Now, I tell you, as we talked about this, Stacey Abrams is past her right now so far to be VP. But we'll talk about that another time. But you have those things. Then you have, out of nowhere, Beto O'Rourke. Beto O'Rourke is this again out of nowhere after a ridiculous campaign. He suddenly pops up and says, you know what? I'm going to endorse Joe Biden in Texas to help him out, despite Biden having no ground game for the primary. Zero ground game for the primary. 0 ground game in Minnesota. 1 office in Virginia. We're going to make sure that we give him this free media and whatnot, all right? And not only with that, Jordan, I got to tell you this or whatnot, because the Iowa caucus showed the scandal right there to everyone's face. The proof was right there. And of course, the centrist media was like, oh, we'll cover our eyes and say that Buttigieg is the winner, despite the Associated Press. And I give them so much credit for doing this, the Associated Press. It's clearly saying that there's a lot of issues here, and it's not just progressive journalists or people at the appeal, like the dude Tennell, that was clearly showing that the Iowa caucus was fixed. But anyway, we're going to make sure, whatnot, that we just ignore what happened in Iowa and skip this all the way, all right? Despite all the free media that Biden got, the $75 million, $100 million of local and national media that he got all over the place and whatnot, this guy still is not really that popular enough to get electability. So I think literally, because people talk about voter suppression and stuff, for Bernie and everything, and that's true with the long lines and few polling places to vote for. I honestly do believe, now this is the thing again, with no evidence whatsoever, and this is why I tell people just focus on the Iowa caucus and whatnot, because that's where any direct proof of this happened or whatever. But it's just kind of weird that Joe Biden, struggling to win a state his whole entire presidential campaign's career, got this amazing wave of support, in Virginia and in Minnesota, in Massachusetts, where Bernie's about to win the state and embarrass Elizabeth Warren, and Elizabeth Warren's never going to think about running for president again. Out of nowhere, Joe Biden, yes, there are a lot of centrist people outside of Boston, around Boston. It's not just, weird racist people in the rural areas of Massachusetts and whatnot. But it's still a little weird that, Joe Biden's got all this support out of nowhere. But, okay, it happens. Joe Biden out of nowhere becomes, revived, becomes the comeback Joe. Like, all this Joe momentum, everything, whatever. And then also, what they did was try to negate everything in the Bernifornia. And that's why I will always call it the Bernifornia. Because, we talked about this, where I asked you, and I literally, Jordan, you remember, I asked you, I was like, Jordan, do you remember how long did it take for the California votes 4 years ago to finish? Because we knew it was a ridiculous thing when they started declaring Hillary the winner of the damn thing. When people were on the line still waiting to vote. And shout out to Great Plus, who is so adamant about this to this day. You had a great talk with him, because there's still a lot of shenanigans with that 4 years ago. That's still very weird, but okay. They were able to get away with it, all right? How they tried to negate the most populous state in the nation. The most populous state, ladies and gentlemen, from Bernie winning and whatnot, and tried to make sure they never acknowledged him winning it. And then the minute he wins it, it's like, oh, we're here to Super Tuesday 2 in Michigan. Let's go Michigan, Mississippi, and Missouri. It's just so much things that he was up against, so much crap and so much obvious things that even if he pointed it out, he's angry, he's irrational, he's just a sore loser. If he doesn't point it out, he's just trying to do what he's trying to do and hope the thing happens. It was so much a thing where, honestly, no matter any mistakes, that they decided this election themselves. The centrist.
I got to land this plane, so I'm going to respond point by point. Mm-hmm. Give you one last response. We'll have you back because there's a lot to discuss. Mm-hmm. By the way, people can follow Andrew on Twitter at Slugga HGJEILLS.
You
We'll
want
put it up on the screen, but definitely give him a follow, even though he's a fool. No, I'm just playing with it.
Look at your white privilege, sir. White privilege.
I want to go point by point, and then I got to wrap because I got a call.
Yep.
First of all, I think you're right about a lot of things, but I think you also don't realize that the reason a lot of those things happen is because Bernie never went on offense. When you go on offense and put people on defense, it does a lot of good things. I don't respect Donald Trump. I think he's an incorrigible figure. I think he's a racist. I think he's a homophobe. I think he's a sexist, misogynist, Islamophobist, all of it. But one of the reasons he won in 2016 was not just because of, white nationalism and racism. It's because he fought his street brawler campaign and said, I don't give a fuck. Because he didn't expect to win, first of all. But people gravitated to that.
Yes, sure did.
Anti-establishment
and still
fervor.
Still do gravitate to it.
There's an anti-establishment fervor on both sides, and I have seen it because I've been all over the country for 5 years. So let's start with the Warren point. You're wrong just by the data, because even though it didn't necessarily lift Warren, Bernie went down 10 points on women 45 and older with that response. How he could have neutralized that.
How is going to neutralize that?
Well, first of all, when your answer is simply above the fray, Senator Warren's a friend of mine, but no, I did not say that. And you just answer like matter of fact, which you think
he practically did in the debate, Jordan. He practically did just that.
When somebody comes after you, woman, man, or glow in the dark, and says, basically, you are a sexist, you are not a champion of women, is basically calling you a fraud. That's what she was basically saying by alleging that he said that.
That's what she meant to do.
You either respond above the fray and give people listening a chance to say, well, he didn't really fight against it, he just kind of meekly responded, and she is doubling down on it in her answer. Let's also say, because Bernie answered in a way that I thought was kind of weak, it gave that moderator, that idiot, the opportunity to turn around and be like, Senator Warren, how did it feel when he said this?
Dana Bash. But she played into it, though. Dana Bash played into it.
It wasn't Dana Bash, it was Abby Phillips.
Well, Abby definitely played into it for sure, because she knew that it was BS, and they all knew it was BS, Jordan. They all knew it was BS. That's why, because they know they would have refuted. They would have easily refuted and said, "Elizabeth Warren, where's your proof?"
It doesn't matter what they. It doesn't matter.
But you got to understand that, Jordan. Jordan, you got to understand that point.
Let's go to your original point, which I agree with.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of Americans are idiots, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's your original point. So let's look back in quick memory lane into Democratic politics. Joe Biden had to drop out in 1988 because of plagiarism, right? Gary Hart had to drop out basically because he cheated on his wife or whatever.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, you look at other examples where Democrats who were caught lying have had to drop out. The Democratic electorate, unlike the Republican electorate, doesn't like liars. Even though I don't think Gary Hart should have had to drop out, and that's a whole other topic. So the problem is Bernie Sanders, because the media gave Warren a pass for many, many lies, he didn't have to mention the phrase Native American. What he should have said, again, I'll double down. I respect Senator Warren. I think she's a great senator. And of course, sometimes in private meetings or private discussions, you could say one thing and someone internalizes it another way. However, Senator Warren, as the media has reported in the past, has had some inconsistencies with the truth on a variety of things. Maybe she perceives that something I said, I meant it this way, but I did not say a woman cannot become president, and Senator Warren turned to her, I did not say that. And you should retract that, because those words never left my mouth. And the words that have left my mouth is in 1988, go look at the video, I told little school children, little female school children, don't ever let a boy tell you you can't be something and run for president. And go down the list of things he has said to champion women. He didn't have to say you are a liar, but he should have been much more forceful. Because you want to know what happens then? The first thought people have, or the first thought people are Googling, is not #MeToo. It's It's Elizabeth Warren and lies. Because he would have put the seed in people's mind, which is factual, by the way. People would look up, oh, what did she lie about? You cast doubt on her. And by the way, I don't know. I wasn't in the room. You were in the room. I don't think he said that. Putting that aside, nobody knows. You don't just feebly say, no, I did not say that, and then let her double and triple down. So that was a major mistake. And part of why he went down by 10 points among women 45 and older is because he feebly responded and he let her double and triple down. And when it's a woman versus a man, we're not talking about anything like harassment or assault, just like who said what. If the man's not forcefully going to call you out and say you're lying, women are going to tend to think that the woman is telling the truth. He should have been a lot more aggressive. Now let's move to Clyburn, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Clyburn, South Carolina.
Corrupt Clyburn. Corrupt Clyburn.
South Carolina kingpin, right? You think it's as easy for James Clyburn to go tell black voters to vote for Joe Biden?
Older black voters, yes.
If it's already out there that Joe Biden has lied about arrests
yes,
in South Africa?
And Jordan, let me tell you why. Obama's VP. Obama's VP.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Right. But we're just talking about losing by 30 points. So let's just do a thought exercise. If it's already out, if Bernie is going at him, if the campaign is going at him on these lies, if the campaign is going at him on working with Strom Thurmond on busing, if the campaign is going at him on lying in black churches, probably in South Carolina, about these things, do you think James Clyburn has to answer for that? Do you think the media cannot ignore that if Bernie's campaign is out publicly on it? I think Biden would have won South Carolina, probably by 10 to 15 points. I don't think James Clyburn, if those facts were already in the media wasn't going to cover it on their own. They would only cover it if Bernie went on offense about it. James Clyburn's endorsement does not allow Joe Biden to win 30 points. If Joe Biden does not win South Carolina by 30 points, Obama would not see the opening to get all the ducks in a row. So the thing is, this lack of going on offense allowed these neoliberal corporatist Democrats to create that 3-4 day, Kyle Kalinske calls it Bloody Monday, when they all dropped out, because Bernie didn't go on offense. So, of course, it's easy for me or you or anybody to Monday morning quarterback. But the bottom line is, if you're not going to call your opponents liars, if you're not going to go on offense and keyword fight, and this extends to the current situation, which we'll have another debate on it because we don't have the time now.
Mm-hmm.
AOC right now ain't fighting against Pelosi. Rashida Tlaib and Pramila Jayapal not calling out Pelosi and these ham sandwich bills that don't really help anyone. They are choosing to play footsie on one end, but say we're organizing on the outside. When you don't fight, good outcomes don't come. I'm not saying we should be racist like the Tea Party, but the Tea Party didn't come in saying, my friend John Boehner, let's have a task force about it. They came in scorched earth. And the reason that Bernie and progressives are not, I don't care if we're winning the court of public opinion if you can't seize power. Yes, it's great that the majority of people in these exit polls were for Medicare for all. But why is it, Andrew, that they went against their own will for stated policy goals and voted for Biden anyway? Because Bernie did not make it palatable enough for them and didn't cast enough doubt in their minds to not vote for Biden. On Cuba, have you ever watched President Trump in an interview?
Jordan, I've seen this man since 1990.
Okay.
I definitely know.
What is President Trump's go-to move when he is asked something that he can't tell the truth about or just doesn't want to address?
He likes to attack, whether all the way back from
that's
being.
Not his go-to move.
You don't think his go-to move is calling Obama a birther or attacking and deflecting or anything?
I'm getting at something specific.
Oh, okay. What's the specific? Because I know what it is.
He nips it in the butt by saying, excuse me, and then says what he wants to say. I'm not defending Donald Trump, but he's smart. And Bernie Sanders could have very easily said, I don't think the American people watching right now are interested in Fidel Castro in Cuba in the 1950s and 60s. And if Anderson Cooper pushes back, You simply say, excuse me, the reason I won in Iowa, the reason I won in New Hampshire, the reason we just had a clobbering effect in Nevada is because you go into your talking points. And you want to know it? Andrew, let the media say you're dodging. It doesn't matter. But you don't. Bernie had to know, and he's naive if he doesn't know this, and his campaign is naive if they don't know this, that they are the only highlight from that interview will be what you actually say about Castro. He was right what he was saying about Castro, but it doesn't matter if he was right. You're giving them the ammo by giving them the soundbite. They can't use that if you simply keep saying, excuse me, we're going to talk about the real issues, not the media created issues. That's moving on from Cuba. Now, the South Carolina debate, where you so expertly brought up the lobbyists, the consultants, and all these people stacking the deck in the audience. Bernie Sanders should have used it to his advantage. He should have taken a page out of Donald Trump's playback and said, while going against Bloomberg, Biden, and all of them much more fiercely, he should have said, I don't think the cameras could pan around, but just so you know, to the people watching at home, the majority of people screaming and yelling and booing me right now are corporate lobbyists and DNC consultants that could afford the nearly $3,000 ticket to get in here. These aren't the actual working people of America booing me right now. These are the people that Tom Perez stacked. But the truth is, and that would have been a soundbite that went all over the media for days and days and days and days. But the truth is, Andrew, and again, I don't want the audience to get it twisted. I love Bernie Sanders. I have fair criticism of him, but I think it's foolish.
And I have fair criticism of him too.
Yeah, I think it's foolish when people call him a sellout and a fraud and a coward. Those people have not done, Bernie Sanders has done more in 5 minutes than any of these people combined. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is, when you never go on offense, when your version of going on offense is feebly saying, wait a minute, are you sure about that, Vice President Biden? You didn't say that? When you ask 3 times, are you sure? And that's your most aggressive stance, you will lose. Because the media is a more powerful force than just running on the issues, which is Bernie Sanders' mantra. So he could have used that to his advantage and said, I doubt the cameras could turn around, but the people booing me right now are not the working people of America. They are lobbyists, they are consultants that were able to afford the nearly $3,000 price to come to this debate. And frankly, DNC Chair Tom Perez should be ashamed of making it that way. This is how you win. Because you want to know something, Andrew?
Yes, sir.
Even voters over 65 who might think Bernie is a little too far left on policies, human interest, human nature, every age responds to a fighter. As long as you're not going low, I'm not saying you should have went after Biden for his cognitive decline. Maybe your campaign could have sprinkled that, behind the scenes, but I don't think Bernie should have ever been leading that. I don't think Bernie should have ever went after Hillary Clinton on her fainting, during 9/11 or any of that stuff. You stay above the fray. But you go after them on the issues, and you go after hard, you name names, you call them puppets, and that's why, frankly, Bernie Sanders was kind of like the Moses who could get us out of Egypt, but he wasn't the guy who could give us I don't know what the analogy is. He couldn't lead
you through to the promised land in terms of the pastures of the milk and honey to enjoy becoming the chariots and the Pharaoh over through the Red Sea.
To me, yes, of course there were extenuating circumstances, but you give Clyburn the opportunity to be the kingmaker that helps you lose by 30 by not putting Biden's lies out there in the first place. You give Warren the opportunity to sink you among women by 10 points over age 45 by not simply saying, I respect Senator Warren. She's a great senator. She has a problem with the truth. The media has reported on that problem with the truth before. A story was out in the New York Times right after we met. Senator Warren's sources that just went to CNN didn't tell the New York Times then that I said this because I never said it. Senator Warren, I didn't say this. If I said something that might have made you think that, then I apologize, but I never, ever uttered the words in my life, a woman cannot become president. You know it, I know it, and you should be honest about that. That is how you fight, and that is how you win. The same thing with Biden. He should have went after him on these civil rights lies. He should have went after him on the crime bill, owning that he made a mistake and showing that Biden won't admit that he made a mistake. And it's currently hurting black people in South Carolina and other places. Cuba, pick your battles. Don't get into Cuba when you're on the 5-yard line about to score the touchdown. And South Carolina debate, I just told you, he should have used it to his advantage. And that's it.
All right,
Your short rebuttal, because I do it together.
I do it real quick, and it'll just be on South Carolina. First, we'll talk about first debate, all right? Just real quick in terms of that. Bernie Sanders, and in fact, honestly, a lot of even the actual candidates on stage didn't even know about the whole ticket thing, because the ticket thing, the prices, they were just talked about the day before. In fact, really the day of, where there wasn't much discussion about it because people didn't care. It's a damn debate. We're still debating on issues and more important things about what's going on in the world, not about the debate crowd. So he had no clue until after the debate and everyone else that crowd was a rich, influenced crowd. So, because he would have certainly, knowing him, how Bernie is, he attacks anything that he sees as a rich person wielding power. So that right there, you can even get at him on that, because I thought about that too, as maybe Bernie should have went more aggressive or whatnot, knowing that he didn't know that crowd was that until after the fact. All right. Now let me get to on South Carolina in general, sir. I got to teach you about black people in general because you have a black friend or a black colleague to let you know, all right? To let you know how black people think, because I am black and also have family in South Carolina as well, all right? Black people know, in terms of knowing Joe Biden, where they don't even need the South Africa incident in terms of him being a fake apartheid person, or about his various incidents with Strom Thurmond, or because black people definitely do know that in terms of knowledgeable black people, for sure, older black people, including Jim Clyburn knows about that. They know about his busing issue. They saw the debate with Kamala, all right? They definitely know about that, for sure, because Kamala still resonates for certain with a good segment of the black community, all right? And how she's actually doing a pretty good job of revitalizing her image, even though she's going to always be Kamala, all right? But real quick, so black people definitely are familiar, older black voters are familiar with Joe Biden's record, all right? And the most important thing that they were familiar with before Obama revived his career is Anita Hill. Because we all saw that live and direct, and that's why his behind was saying, we will definitely elect the black woman to the Supreme Court, and how Al Sharpton and basically all other prominent black Democrats were like, no, that's not good enough, Joe. You really need to think about you choosing Amy Klobuchar as your VP, and a popular person who no one really resonates with at all, as your VP. You need to really evaluate this, i.e., you need to think about how Stacey did a good job with Bloomberg and with the voter registration thing, and how she should have been governor of Georgia instead of Brian Kemp, having their dubious thing that happened in that election. And now you see the disaster that he is with this pandemic, as any Republican governor is. And, you need to really think about this, and you need to see if Stacey is really ready for this overall, all right? But anyway, back to Biden. So black people already know that Joe Biden had his whole issues with whatnot. They also know that Joe Biden was Barack Obama's VP. And no matter that, despite Bernie Sanders doing a good job or whatnot, having ground game in South Carolina, having a lot of black overall people in South Carolina, besides Nina Turner, people that actually lived in South Carolina. I mean, Jordan, we saw when the campaign launched in Brooklyn College, he had Reverend Taylor or whatnot do his whole opening speech or whatever, and Reverend Taylor's very known in Charleston, South Carolina, known in Columbia, South Carolina.
You're
so that's what it is.
Andrew, black, white, or purple?
Mm-hmm. No. Focus on black. Focus on black, Jordan. Black voters.
Okay, but I'm asking you. Mm-hmm. You're honestly telling me, because I interviewed black people in South Carolina.
And Jordan, I'm black and have family in South Carolina.
But I'm going into specific points. Almost every person I interviewed in South Carolina, specifically older people, did not know about the apartheid thing. Did not know that he lied about it.
Of course they didn't. What white person knows about that in terms of other supporters? Who knows? Are they supposed to know that? Are they obligated to know that as black voters? Why doesn't white voters know? Why doesn't Hispanic voters know? Are they obligated to know that?
But this isn't a criticism of that.
Okay, but I'm just saying, because that's inconsistent here.
So I'm asking, you're telling me that if Bernie, a among black voters in South Carolina. Let's just say older black voters. You're telling me if his campaign didn't go on offense on those specific things, yes, they knew about the Strom Thurmond thing, but the things that the media wasn't reporting, you're telling me Biden points?
He still wins South Carolina, Jordan, and he not only that.
I've already acknowledged that.
And he still wins it probably by 30 points because the fix was in, Jordan. The fix was in. That's why Clyburn endorsed. That's why Clyburn endorsed Biden despite knowing all about Biden's past and working with Bernie on his favorite thing, the 10, 20, 30. Bernie on that, not Biden. Bernie on that. And yet he went and said, oh, this lady in the church told me or whatnot that the church was counting on me to basically be like, oh, we're counting on you and you need to step up and make an endorsement or whatnot. And I know no black woman really told him that or whatnot because I know black churches and I know no black woman was like, you need to make a decision. Black women are like, look, I'm just going to vote on who is in the primary that I know if I vote on it and we'll see how it goes. And also, Joe Biden is Obama's VP. And we love Obama because Obama represented us or whatnot. And that's why they went in the direction that they did, along with seeing what happened in the debate and thought that a neutral crowd was thinking that, why is Bernie attacking rich people? It's okay for black people to be rich. Black people deserve to be rich. So why is he attacking this? He's just so focused on the same issues. Why is he not showing this? Why is Warren attacking Bloomberg for this? What is going on? Why are they saying the same things? Can they show us something different? Oh, and of course, Biden's Obama's VP. So no matter what would have happened or what you think may have happened or if the campaign should have not focused on Social Security or thought about Biden when Biden was fading and again, had never won a state or whatever, it would not have damn mattered whatsoever. And the fact is a miracle that Bernie Sanders even got delegates and finished a decent second place in South Carolina because think about this or whatnot. Think about this. Biden's campaign's fading, all right? Black voters are very practical voters in terms of always thinking about, all right, we're just going to vote on somebody who's viable enough or whatever to not have crazy Republicans be in charge and stuff, all right? So you're already giving Buttigieg this free media in Iowa. You're giving Klobuchar this free media. You got Warren there getting free media where she's the new Bernie and Bernie's lane or whatever, right? And yet they weren't viable at all to even be considered in South Carolina like that. Because again, it's about black people knowing who you are, no matter all your flaws and everything. If they know you and see that you definitely align with black people, especially someone like Barack Obama, and then aligning with Jim Clyburn, the most famous South Carolina politician, well, we're going to rock with you all the way no matter what, because we understand that, hey, not everyone's perfect. But we know that we're trying to survive here because we don't want crazy-ass Republicans running this country or whatnot because we know how crazy we are. That's why they made sure they put Tim Scott in South Carolina because he was the only one that was going to do any Uncle Tom. And yes, I'm allowed to say that. Not you or any non-black person because you're easily going to mess it up overall. But Tim Scott, we're allowed to say that because that's what he is in terms of being a sellout, not just to black people and anyone in general that's for the races, but especially towards black people. But anyway, it's just something overall that you just see that all these elements show that the fix was in and that nothing that was going to happen was going to make a difference from Bernie Sanders finishing way more respectable than how Hillary Clinton blew him out and how that primary went how it did. So that's what we got to say. But Jordan, it was great to talk to you, sir.
Well, I will say, and maybe we could talk about this another time, because I think the black vote's going to be important in every election for progressives. And
sure
we got to figure out a way to make inroads, particularly with the Southern African-American voters that are, like you talked about, kind of go with what they know, vote pragmatically or how they think is pragmatically. But I also will say, in my experience, and I guess the data does show this, obviously black people are not monoliths, and different regions of the country vote differently. Because in Nevada, I mean, Bernie got 27% of the black vote. In Michigan, I don't know the number off the top of my head, he did much better among black voters than he did in South Carolina.
And always won older black voters everywhere. All right? Key point. Everywhere. He won older, younger black voters. He won younger black voters everywhere. But keep on going.
No, he did better among even older black voters in other parts of the country.
Yes, he did.
So my point was, yes, Biden would have won South Carolina. But I do think, and maybe it's just, I'm not black, and I don't have the knowledge to think this. I don't think, because none of the polls showed this, I don't think it makes a difference if you win by 15 to 20 points
or 20 points. Yes, it does.
And
delegates matter.
A 30-point victory I think if Bernie's campaign would have put things out there that put aside Obama for a second, which I know you're saying is a big aspect, and I agree.
Yes, it is.
Unfortunately,
by the way, too.
You make black leaders like Clyburn and other black leaders defend it. You make them have to go on the record defending these apartheid lies, defending. What do you mean? There's no data. There's no history that you were in any civil rights sit-ins. Hey, people start questioning. What does Obama think about this? All I'm saying is, you give people a reason to doubt.
And Jordan.
Just being Obama's vice president. Just being Obama's vice president wasn't helping any other.
Jordan, you saw what they did with John Lewis 4 years ago when Bernie legitimately trying to protest against civil rights, housing issues in Chicago, and you saw, and being like a line, not necessarily being a SNCC, but adhering to the SNCC cause, and you saw what they did. They went and trotted out John Lewis after his years of being lovely, centrist, democratic, but the perfect image for morality and blackness overall. And they went and got John Lewis to undercut Bernie and say, I didn't see him at the marches. And that's what would have happened if Bernie would have questioned and said, oh, Jim, you're supporting this guy, Strom Thurmond. They would have been like, well, you try to present yourself as black, but we didn't see you around black people in the 80s just because you supported Jesse Jackson's campaign. You still supported the crime bill, despite you saying the clear reasons why you supported the crime bill and saying that it was definitely racist or whatnot. You still supported it. Anything that Bernie would have said about any black issue or whatnot against Biden, it would have got turned around him quickly with a lot of black hats, whether Bakari Sellers or, sometimes Angela Rye, even though I respect Angela sometimes, but she's definitely a hack like that. And Bakari's the chief hack of them all, whatever. Or Keith Boykin, who's like a good colleague of mine, but it is what it is with him and whatnot. They would have easily turned that around as a circular effect of saying, Bernie Sanders, you're a hypocrite, even though he's not. But they would have turned that around. And it would have resonated because, again, media, older black people, just like older white Americans, older Hispanic Americans, it's just something where just once you have that as the only media sources or whatnot that you consume, and you got a lot of issues in life to deal with or whatever, you don't got time to be on Twitter or be on Facebook all the time or whatever, and compartmentalize like that, all the advantages or whatnot, he's running into something where he's in the whole damn thing in the trap that they could have made even worse for him or whatnot if you went down those roads.
And real quick.
Yes, sir.
Because I want to be able to declare victory.
All right.
Once this is over.
Don't do the Jordan. Don't do the Jordan on Jordan love with this. Don't.
No. Who's your Biden VP pick? Because I think we disagree.
It's 50-50.
No, you got to pick one.
Well, you saw my rankings, Jordan. You saw my rankings that I tagged you or not. It's a tie right now. If they had to prefer, I think they would choose Stacey Abrams over Klobuchar. And I've said Klobuchar the whole time, and I've given the reason. But tonight, this is Thursday, Lawrence O'Donnell is not having anyone else with Joe Biden. He's having Stacey Abrams. And this is the thing. They may have seen my tweet, may have seen all this or whatnot. They're trying to get ahead of this because they know that no matter if Biden tries to cater to any progressive issue while he's at president or whatnot, they know that a primary could easily happen in 2024. And Bernie, look, Nancy Pelosi's 80. She's 2 years older than Bernie. Dianne Feinstein was allowed to continue all over the place well into her 80s or whatnot, or whatever. Bernie Sanders maintains decent health, and he could, even after the heart attack, he still could easily maintain decent health or whatnot. And for sure you think he's definitely energized, or you know that Jane makes sure that he's eating as healthy as he can for sure, and he is himself. They know for certain or whatnot that they have to get ahead of the thing. And there's a possibility that Bernie can say, you know what, we're going to run a rematch right back. Even if Cuomo wanted to try to think that he was brave enough to run in it, Bernie could run a primary right on Biden or whatever. Biden could be the first incumbent president in a long time because we live in these crazy times where he could piss us off so much on the left or whatnot, or just not fight enough to deal with Republicans. And it could be a whole thing where it's Bernie versus Nina Turner versus Biden and Stacey Abrams in 2024.
Right,
in a primary.
Just so I know. Not who he prefers. Who do you think he will ultimately
I think slightly Stacey Abrams. Either way, it's going to be only Abrams and Klobuchar, but I do think And this is why the Lawrence O'Donnell interview tonight is crucial, because he's having a town hall with Biden, who struggled with town halls. While Bernie still gets the streams and people in his town halls, Biden can barely get a C-SPAN audience for his town halls. I still think that, Abrams is being featured. She's really moved ahead. No matter any criticism that people may have of Abrams, our friend Zay Jelani all the way, who's big in Georgia, knows like Stacey Abrams' career, whatnot. Stacey Abrams is pretty shrewd at this game. She's actually smarter than Amy Klobuchar and even Kamala, definitely, in terms of playing the game and whatnot. She's superb at playing this game, this lady. And, she played it brilliantly with Bloomberg, used his money brilliantly to boost her whole image or whatnot on the only thing that you could use Bloomberg's money for decently, which is voter registration. I mean, everything else or whatever is corrupt to use Bloomberg's money for, but she played it beautifully. And then Al Sharpton backed her and made sure, you know what? No, Joe, you need to listen right now, because I know you well. And I have this show on MSNBC, and I have black standing in the black community all the way now, all the way. Let me give Stacey Abrams a first interview in terms of this phase, all right? And she knocked it out the park. And then, as I told you, Chuck Todd, Shake Taper, they were like, okay, this is ready. This is prime time now. You're on the Sunday talk shows where you can easily get tripped up by centrist media. You're dealing with the centrist media bigwigs. Jake Taper, Chuck Todd. Let's see how you handle this. And you can watch those interviews back or whatever to see. Did not trip up on any other tough questions or whatnot, especially when Biden, Tara Reid, or with black voters and anything like that. Handled it smoothly or whatnot. To the point where Klobuchar's faded a little bit or whatnot, and Obama and Biden are kind of pissed at her for her spilling the beans a little bit when she didn't have to do that the Super Tuesday before or whatnot. And they know that Klobuchar just resonates in black women voters who have been the bedrock of Democratic Party or whatnot. They're like, look, you need to return the favor, Joe. Obama, revive your career. You need to champion some black woman, because you're not going to pick Nina. You need to pick someone that's viable enough as a very, very black woman or whatnot, but who's not going to be along the Democratic Socialist lines and still try to keep private businesses around. So that's why I think Amy Klobuchar is behind Stacey Abrams at the moment. And I think Stacey Abrams, is going to get a VP. It's only going to be those two. Only those two are the only game in town. Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, they're out. Despite them trying to float them around and distract us, they're practically out. Marcia Fudge, Gretchen Whitmore, Tammy Baldwin, Catherine Cortez Masto, gone.
So last thing I'll say, and we'll have a post VP pick.
Yes, sir.
I think that's asinine.
Okay.
God bless you. Because
God bless you too, sir.
There's one major factor that you are forgetting in this.
And I said Amy Klobuchar.
Or you didn't mention.
The
donors play a huge role in who they pick. I mean, I'm working on a story right now. A lot of Kamala's top donors, right when she dropped out, jumped to Biden. A lot of Klobuchar's top donors jumped to Biden.
Of course.
Donors who are all, half of them will become ambassadors. If
Biden wins the nomination still.
And their promise of who would titillate them to write those big checks that, of course, Biden and the gas bags running his campaign think they need, play a major role. So it's not going to be Stacey Abrams, although I agree with you. I think it's between Harris and Klobuchar.
Okay.
I'll tell you why for both. Harris, for the exact reasons you spoke about. She's a senator. She's an African-American woman. They mistakenly think it would excite millennials. It won't.
No, it won't.
But they do think...
But she's doing better, though, on it. She's doing better lately, but it won't.
They do think it would solidify and energize the black voting base, which I think, in totality, it definitely would. Like you said, Al Sharpton, black voters want something, tangible.
I mean, she's Kamala, but we're going to vote. They're going to vote for anybody.
But my point is the donors play a role, and that's why... it would be Kamala over Stacey Abrams. I actually think he's going to pick Klobuchar because the same morons running Hillary Clinton's campaign, because there was a lot of Obama people, were delusional enough to think that they could give progressives the middle finger because there's enough moderate Republicans and never Trumpers out there to fill the difference. And they still think that. We just saw this story how Biden's campaign is pushing this Republicans for Biden group. we know that
Yes.
Biden proudly says, I mean, I want to work with Republicans. He even said when he was asked, I would consider a Republican for my vice president before he went on this, I'm picking a woman. So Biden basically, Amy Klobuchar is Biden with different parts. She basically is a Republican, and they think, and Amy Klobuchar polls very well among conservative Democrats and actually polls decently among Republicans. That's why it's going to be her, because they're going to take the same fatal strategy Hillary Clinton's campaign took, which is we got to go for the never Trumpers. They're going to say the economy is going to be close to 20% unemployment. The Republicans are going to fall more and more out of favor with Trump, and that's where we're going. And they think that Amy Klobuchar, if you saw the CNN poll yesterday, he's down 7 points in battleground states, including Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio. Kamala's not helping him in those battleground states.
No, she's not.
Amy Klobuchar, they're delusional enough to think Amy Klobuchar will help them win back those Obama to Trump voters that switched from Obama to Trump. They think Klobuchar, because of that Midwest nice thing, and I know the heartland, and I'm basically conservative.
And she's their friend. She's legitimately Joe Biden and Barack Obama's friend.
But I'm going to make you a deal, Andrew.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If it's Stacey Abrams, you host an hour on Status Quo Live, and I will wear whatever shirt you want, including a LeBron James shirt, even though he's not the greatest ever. If it's Stacey Abrams, because I think it's very unlikely. I think she'll get a position in a Biden administration, but I don't see her becoming vice president. So thank you for coming on.
And I'll return the favor. I'll return the favor with something. I got to think of it because I didn't know he was going to go down that route or whatnot. But I'm a fair betting man when I do my bets or whatnot. And I'll definitely think of something good enough, sir.
And maybe we'll have a side debate, not on this channel because I don't think people care. But it's blasphemy to say LeBron James is a greater basketball player than Michael Jordan. So we'll get to that another day.
You Stephen A. Smith fan. You are a Stephen A. Smith fan because he can't stand whenever someone brings that up.
I do love Stephen A., but I think this irrespective of Stephen A. LeBron James, if he was even breathed on by the bad boy Pistons of the 1980s, he'd fall down. Let's just keep it real. So anyway, I digress. Okay. God bless.
I'll let you believe that.
Where can people find you again?
Slugger Gels, SLUGGAHJELLS. And at various places, especially over the next few weeks, including one thing that I'll talk to you about privately, which kind of should have happened, but still could easily happen. I'll let you know about that, sir. It is sports-related mostly, but I'll let you know.
Cool. Thank you for taking the arrows and me telling you you're wrong 25 times.
Oh, Jordan. I'll let you believe that, sir.
It's fun.
It was, sir. All right. This is going viral, everyone. Going viral. Peace.
All right, man. I'm going to air this during my live stream Sunday, since I do a couple hours Sunday.
Okay, and you know what's funny? You know what? I was able